Good morning, everyone. Time now to check sports on this Monday morning. Well, the Summersville shootout wrapped up Saturday. The boys game, Waltonville defeated Central City 55-36. Sobdike Bellrive over Albers 48-39. St. Anthony JV a winner over Germantown JV 40-18. It was St. Anthony over Germantown, the varsity, 60-27. Teutopolis JV a winner over Summersville JV 68-20. Fairfield beat Teutopolis 41-35. Carbondale JV beat Effingham JV 44-33, and Effingham over Carbondale in the varsity contest 61-35. The girls game, Waltonville over Fairfield 30-15. Albers beat Summersville 43-36, and Germantown beat Opdyke Bellrive 56-18. That's in the Summersville shootout, concluded Saturday. Well, the Black Diamond Conference All-Conference football team was announced recently. First team offense, quarterback Jake Simon from Carmi-White County. Running backs Peyton Price, El Dorado, Andrew Burnett, Carmi-White County, Trey Vessel, El Dorado, and Luca Gualdoni, Johnston City. Tight end Justice Stubblefield from Carmi-White County, Case Robinson of Edwards County, offensive lineman Max Edwards from Johnston City, Jacob Simpson from Fairfield, Davin Lester from El Dorado, Mitchell Nelson from Carmi-White County, Bryce Jones from Cesar-Villiers, tight end Max Kaiser from El Dorado. The kicker was Luca Gualdoni from Johnston City. Now the first team defense, defensive lineman Brayton Atterbury, El Dorado, Tyler Gass, El Dorado, Dylan Hefner, Fairfield, Jacob Golding, Chester, and linebacker Ross Harris, El Dorado, Clayton Selby, Johnston City, Lance Jolly, Fairfield, and Jacob Traxler, El Dorado. Defensive back Brant McGill, Fairfield, Colton Geralds from Johnston City, Wyatt Bora, Fairfield, punter Stephen Anderson of Christopher Ziegler-Royalton, and Luca Gualdoni of Johnston City. Second team offense, quarterback Macklin Snyder of Fairfield, running back Chris Lang of Chester, Zach Ashby of Cesar-Villiers, Waylon Webb of Hamilton County, and Savian Smith of Chester, Bryce Northcott of Carmi-White County. Offensive lineman Chase Williams, El Dorado, Ryan Walter, Fairfield, Nick Hudnall, El Dorado, Seth McKenzie, Edwards County, Christian Funk of, and tight end was Jaden Lewis of Fairfield. Second team defense, defensive lineman Brandon Thomas, Fairfield, Colton Yates, Carmi-White County, Tyson Bradley, El Dorado, Zach Costco of Johnston City, linebacker Hunter Peak of Johnston City, Josh Gunter of Cesar-Villiers, Nick Hefferman of Chester, Braxton Williams, Carmi-White County, Lane Stockton of Edwards County, defensive back Justin Lamp, Carmi-White County, Lucas Gunter, Cesar-Villiers, and Bobby Brake, Edwards County, and Noah Rapp of Hamilton County. The MVP was Peyton Price of El Dorado, captain on the offensive Jake Simon, and captain on the defensive side Luca Gualdoni. Honorable mention went to Alex Hunsinger of Carmi-White County, Wyatt Weinbreck of Chester, Braden Kelhoff, and Nick Meyer of Christopher Ziegler-Royalton, Derek Muller, Colton Phillips, Noah Huff of Edwards County, Cade Rivers, Colton Kelsey of El Dorado, Kyle Worley, Joe Mayberry, Fairfield, Jackson Kronovich, and Devin Butler. And Hamilton County, Terry Dietrich, Hunter Abrams, and Shane Atkins. Johnston City, Cole Breimer, Hunter Creamer, Cesar-Villiers, Mitchell Bulla, Clayton Smith, all receiving honorable mention. Well, the Class A Girls State Volleyball Finals over the weekend. Class 1A, third place went to Windsor, Stewart's, and Strasburg. They beat NCOE 2-0. And the championship, West Prairie over Lanark Eastland 2-1. Class 2A, third place game went to Belleville-Altoff, beating Chicago Latin 2-1. The championship, Eureka beat St. Joseph Ogden 2-0. Class 3A, third place, Mascouda beat Bloomington Central Catholic 2-1. The championship, Chicago Heights Marion, they beat Woodstock Marion 2-1. Also over the weekend, the quarterfinals of the IHSA football playoffs. Class 2A, Maroa Forsyth beat DuQuoin 35-21. Class 3A, Carlinville over Newton 32-21. The Class 4A, Rochester beat Belleville-Altoff 48-47. And Friday night, Canton beat Breeze Mater Dei 43-42. In Class 7A, East St. Louis a winner over Villa Park Willowbrook 60-27. And in Class 8A, it was Glenbard West over Edwardsville 38-21. Also, NFL football scores from Sunday. Denver over New Orleans 25-23. The Rams a winner over the Jets 9-6. Seattle beat New England 31-24. Kansas City a winner over Carolina 20-17. Houston over Jacksonville 24-21. Philadelphia beat Atlanta. The final score, Philadelphia 24, Atlanta 15. Tampa Bay over the Bears 36-10. It was Tennessee beating Green Bay 47-25. Washington a winner over Minnesota 26-20. Miami a winner over San Diego 31-24. Arizona beat San Francisco 23-20. And Dallas a winner over Pittsburgh 35-30. Monday Night Football tonight. Cincinnati will be in New York to take on the Giants. In NBA basketball, scores from Sunday. Cleveland beat Charlotte 100-93. Minnesota over the Lakers 125-99. It was Orlando beating Oklahoma City 119-117. Golden State a winner over Phoenix 133-120. Portland a winner over Denver 112-105. Some college basketball for you. Men's college basketball from Sunday. Kentucky beat Kansas 93-69. It was North Carolina beating Chattanooga 97-57 and UCLA over Northridge by the score of 102-87. And in women's college basketball, game last night, it was Oklahoma. They defeated Southern Illinois 80-48. Indiana behind Tyra Buss, a junior. She becomes the fastest player in Indiana women's basketball history to score 1,000 career points. Tyra scored 11 points in Indiana's win over Vanderbilt 94-61. The Lady Hoosiers are ranked number 23 in the country. Louisville over Belmont. Louisville ranked number 5. They beat Belmont 73-50. Tennessee over Navy 85-55. Arizona over San Jose State 82-37. And Miami of Florida, they beat Albany 77-53. And National Hockey League scores from Sunday. Chicago got a win over Montreal 3-2 in a shootout. Winnipeg over Los Angeles 3-2. In overtime, Vancouver beat Dallas 5-4. Overtime, Minnesota over Ottawa 2-1. Boston over Colorado 2-0. The Rangers over Edmonton 3-1. The Blues were off last night. They don't play until Tuesday night. They play Tuesday night in St. Louis. They will host Buffalo. And that's Czech Sports for you on this Monday morning. I'm Mark Wells reporting.
Hi, I'm Rebecca West, Children's Director here at Orchardville Church. Do you or your family need a better understanding of God's Word? I would like to invite you to Orchardville Church where your whole family can learn at any age. We begin our teachings even in the nurseries. If you do not have a church you can call your home, we want you to come and be a part of our family. Sunday school begins at 9 a.m. and worship is at 10. We hope to see you. Check us out on ochurch.com and Facebook.
I trust in Jesus, blessed
Time now to check the area weather forecast this morning. It's underwritten by Home Source Warehouse in Mount Vernon.
Monthly financial support of local Christian radio is provided by Home Source Warehouse in Mount Vernon. Located 4 miles north of Mount Vernon on Route 37, Home Source Warehouse offers a warehouse full of quality furniture and mattresses with legendary service. Open Thursday and Friday 10 to 6, Saturday 10 to 3. You can find them on Facebook, and their website is homesourcewarehouse.net. Their phone number is 204-5515. Home Source Warehouse, where style is affordable.
Southern Illinois weather.
And here's the forecast for the Vine listening area on this beautiful Monday. We'll have some sunshine and some clouds mixed today, and we'll have a high of 63. Clear skies tomorrow, high 62. Clear on Wednesday, high 67. And Thursday, clear skies and a high of 74. Carmi right now is at 31. Benton 37. Mount Vernon at 31. Fairfield 35. And in Wayne City right now, it is 32. And good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Vine Morning Show. Here we are on this beautiful Monday morning. I'm Mark, and thanks for tuning in to 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine. And also, if you're watching on our live video stream on our website this morning, wvyn.org, our front page there of our website. Thanks for tuning in this morning. I'm Mark. It's great to have you along, and We have Laura in the studio. Laura, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Mark. Very well, thank you.
You're not usually sitting in your spot that you normally sit in.
No, had to give up my spot to him.
You did. And, I'll let you introduce him this morning.
Okay, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rodney Mellott is here, fresh from Israel.
Good morning, Rodney. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
Well, it's nice for you to be here. And how long has it been since you've been back from Israel?
We got back on October the 27th.
And how long were you there for?
The whole trip was about 11 days.
11 days.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is your fourth trip there, right?
This is the fourth trip. First three, I went on guided tours. And so I followed a guy kind of in the model of following a rabbi.
Sure.
Kind of like the footsteps of Jesus. And this time I led a tour. Just took a group of guys from church. Much different experience.
Really? What was different about it? I mean, you had to have a little bit of knowledge of course, where you're going, what you're going to show them, and a little bit of history behind what you're going to talk about. There's a lot of difference there, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of... The biggest difference was we took a guy from our church named Bernie. And he changed the whole trip.
Yeah, he could.
Everybody knows Bernie. I hope he's listening right now.
Yeah, wow.
But no, you're right. I tell you, it's a different deal. When you go on a guided tour, you've got a bus driver that knows the roads real well. Then you have a guide that knows all the history. And then you have a teacher for all the spiritual lessons. And he has a lot of the history also. So you just sit down in a bus and you've got three people that knows the country like the back of their hand. And here I get lost coming here, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I've been through Wayne City a lot of times and looking for the sign. But then to get in Israel, and you wouldn't believe the traffic in that place.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you feel like a taco, people trying to smash you and come in, and they just change lanes, and the mopeds go in and out of traffic. You just can't imagine.
What side of the street do they drive on? Are they opposite or the same?
Thank the Lord, they're the same. But I was going 140 kilometers an hour driving down the road, and they were just passing me. I thought, I am not going any faster than this.
140 kilometers, what's that translate into U.S. speed?
It wasn't on there. I don't know. But in this little bitty economy car, it was like sitting in a go-kart with five guys.
Really?
I'm like, I am not going faster than this.
Are their cars, are they equipped with like seat belts?
Oh yeah, and it was.
You better hope, right?
It was electric, so I got in the car and I pushed the button and nothing happened. I told the guy, "This car's broke.
It won't start.
It won't start." And it was an electric car.
And you didn't know that?
No, they didn't tell me.
Are all their cars over in? Are they electric? Or are they gas?
It was some kind of a hybrid deal. And so here I'd be pulling up to get out on like a main route with these giant trucks coming at me. And you have to push the gas pedal and count to 3 before anything happens.
Oh, no.
It was horrible. And they're like, go. I said, I'm trying.
That is funny. So, but the previous trips you went on, they were, you didn't have to drive. You rode it. You took a bus tour,
I got to sit in the bus and just gawk around, and I didn't even pay attention, so I didn't know where we were. Israel's about the size of a matchbox, and I was lost the whole time. It took us 3 hours to get from Tel Aviv to Tiberias, which is about 50 miles.
And
it might be farther than that. I don't know.
Now you were explaining on the road signs when you're driving that you're supposed to turn this way, and
I'm like, we got back to the airport, and the sun was just setting, right? So we got to see a little bit. By the time we got our car and got through with this guy, who's thinking these Americans are idiots, don't even know how to start a car. Well, then we was going to get one of these GPS deals, but the guy at the car rental place said, "Oh, just go to any gas station and get a SIM card and put in your cell phone." And I don't know if it's cheaper or easier. I don't know what the guy was thinking. But anyway, we left there without a GPS at nighttime.
Oh, no.
And so then the next day, one of our guys picked up the wrong luggage, so we spent 3 hours getting to Tiberias. at midnight, we finally got there. We had to come back the next morning. I said, I don't care if it costs $100 a day. I want that GPS thing. And when we got it, we figured out why we were so lost. Because the lady, Siri or whoever it is on the GPS would say turn right, and the sign would say turn left. So it's no wonder we were lost for so long. But we were lost. But then finally we got that GPS. It was just an iPad with some kind of deal programmed on it. And we just stopped looking at road signs after that because they are seriously messed up in that country.
Wow.
And and every sign has at least 2 languages, if not 3 languages. There's the English and the Hebrew and the Arabic or whatever it is. And so you'd be trying to find the one that you're wanting as you're cruising down the highway. But it was the driving part was the part that I didn't want to do.
Sure.
And I had a buddy of mine that can find his way out of anywhere, and he was supposed to go, and then he didn't get to, so I ended up having to do the driving, which I do not like at all.
So you had to be the chauffeur and then the tour guide as well.
Yeah.
So as you're driving, look over here. This is so and so.
To your right is the Sea of Galilee.
Well, this was your 4th trip, and
Yes.
what was different from the 4th trip? Well, besides the driving and
Yeah.
everything, I mean, Israel, as you mentioned, is small.
Yes.
And the first time you went, you saw so many things that just really
Yeah.
gave you a better perspective of what you read in the Bible.
Yes.
And then you, okay, I've been here, I've done this. But what was different from the first time compared to the 4th time? Did you see something new?
Okay.
Did you see something that maybe you didn't see the first time?
Well, here's what, if you go on a guided tour, which I would encourage everybody to go and do that. You and I were talking about that earlier.
Right.
But they're rather pricey. But they teach you from sun up till way after the sun goes down. You've got this incredible scholar, Ray Vanderlaan. I got to go with him one time. George D. Young. They're just, you just can't imagine how intelligent these people are and how much knowledge they have. For fun, they translate Hebrew back to Greek and then back the other way just for giggles, you know.
Sure.
So anyway, you've got these guys pumping this information in your head 12 hours a day over 14, and you can't imagine. You just get so overwhelmed with it. But then, you're sitting back there in the bus, and in the travel time, you get to process all this. Well, then you go back to a 4-star hotel. So this hotel's just, you're never there. I don't know why but they have the buffets set up. They have deals with the hotels to where they open really early and stay open really late with the buffets, because those trips are the first one out and last one back. So anyway, this one, I called a guy called Explorer Israel, and I was just talking to him, and I said, I've got to go cheap on this trip. I can't afford this deal.
Sure.
And so he came back at me with these hotels that were $300 a night. And I said, you don't understand what I mean cheap. I said, I want a bed and a restroom. That's what I want.
Yeah, that's all you need, right?
So he come back with these hostels, and he says, I found you guys for $30 a bed. However many guys you got is $30 a bed. So we stayed in this little room that is, I don't know, maybe a 14 by 14 room with 5 twin beds stuck in there. And the bathroom is included in the 14 by 14 square.
Yeah.
So all of us were stuck in this one room. And the snoring was just, oh my gosh. I mean, I took earplugs with me. And Cody, my boy, he said he felt sorry for people in the room next to us. So bad. But what we got was a culture immersion. We were in with people that you're kind of separated from when you go on a guided tour. I mean, we had to find places to eat. We were walking through these districts. We were kind of hanging out with the people. We were in the grocery stores. We were doing a lot of things and getting to know the culture and the people way more than I got to on a guided tour, which was fascinating and scary. And you come back, when the Muslim call to prayer comes over the speaker system in the cities, you know you're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
You know you're somewhere different.
Sure.
And people pull out their rugs, roll them out on the sidewalks, and kneel down and pray. Pointing towards Mecca. It's a different environment. So
Sure.
that's the biggest difference, was getting to mingle with the people.
Sure. How friendly are they there in Israel?
Well, I don't want to make anybody mad, but not really.
Not really friendly. Yeah.
The first night we were there, I told you we were lost.
Sure,
And it was
sure.
midnight, okay? So we pull into a convenience store in Tiberias, which is on the northwestern part of the Sea of Galilee.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just pulled in a convenience store to ask directions. And the guy behind the counter, I said, hey, we're looking for the, I can't remember the name of the hostel right now, but named it to him. And he just kind of looked at me and then just looked back down. And I said, English? That's the thing, when we come back, we had to break ourselves. English?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Shekel or
Yeah.
U.S.?
Yeah, exactly.
Everywhere you go. But anyway, this guy just looked back down. I said, hey, I'm looking for this. And he just took his hand and just motioned me off and shook his head with kind of a scowl on his face and looked back down. And at midnight, after you traveled that far, you're not the most friendly.
Sure.
I'd had enough.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, seriously, you're not going to help me even give me directions to where? And he just shook his head no and looked back down, and that was it. Just go away, you're bothering me.
Really?
And nobody else in the store. And we encountered a lot like that. I
Really?
can tell you a lot of stories like that. But
I wonder why that is.
but then the next guy, we went outside, and there was a guy on his, and that's the other thing. Everybody had a smartphone watching YouTube or playing games on, which kind of shocked me. Muslim, Israeli, didn't matter. But the next guy went outside and said, hey, we're looking for such and such. And he was on the phone speaking Hebrew. I couldn't understand him, but he kept saying the name of our, I could hear the name of our hotel kept coming up. And he said, follow me. Now, at midnight in a country that you don't know where you're at, following a guy is a little risky, but I thought at this point, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so he slowed down to about 120 kilometers an hour through town, trying to follow this guy. But he led us and took us straight to that hotel, which was probably 15 miles out of his way. And then he just honked and waved at us and just went on about his business.
That's good.
So, there's a big difference in people. Like we was walking we was at the Western Wall, and we were lost I was looking for Robinson's Arch, which is ridiculous because it's right there, but it's behind the wall, you can't see it. And I was asking around, and we just stand there, and a guy from the IDF, or the Israeli military, he walks up to us, he said, you guys look lost, can I help you? And I just stared him up and down for a second, and I said, where are you from? He said, Philadelphia.
Really?
And I said, I knew you wasn't from here.
Yeah. Wow.
Because he come up and he could just see the look on our face. He was an American. And it's just a difference in culture.
Sure. Now and we're going to take a quick break here, but real quick, is the Israeli Defense Ministry, their army over there, are they all? Well, he was an American, but there's a lot of Israelis. Are they Americans that combine with their forces over there too, or? This
was people who, I think he said his mom and dad were obviously Jewish, and he was raised, and then they moved back there. I believe is what he told me. So, so their family, I don't know at what point they moved back there. Sure. But they've got a big push to bring the Jewish people back from all over the world,
right?
And they offer them, openings to get there.
Sure.
So you see people from all over the place that are now Israeli citizens.
Yeah.
So, but I could definitely tell. He had some kind of American in him somewhere.
Sure. Interesting. That's great. We're going to come back, talk more with Rodney about Israel and his trip and what he experienced. And if you're planning a trip, you'd love to go to Israel, we'll let Rodney fill you in on some details on what sights to see, what clothing to take. It's always good. Okay, what kind of food do they have over there to eat? We'll find out. We talked a little bit off the air, so we'll come back and continue our conversation with Rodney Mellott. and his sister Laura when we come back here as we're heading into the 9 o'clock hour. The Vine Morning Show on a Monday continues right here at Real Life Radio.
This is your home for best Christian music.
WVYN, Blueford, Wayne City, Fairfield, Mount Vernon.
And now on Translator, W288CO Centralia, broadcasting at 105.5.
A service of Real Life Radio Foundation.
The best Christian music, 90.9 The Vine.
Up on the heights, oh, oh, you let me go, oh, oh, you make my heart to rise from the depths below, and you hold me up, oh, oh, so I can see, oh, oh, you're ever lifting me, you're ever lifting me, you lifted my head so I know you need me, you lifted my eyes so I see you clearly, where I belong, you are where I belong. I lifted my voice just to sing a new song. I lifted my hands just to show you I know where I belong. You are where I belong. 'Cause you are ever lifting me. Oh, you are ever lifting me. Up on my heights, oh, oh, you let me go, oh, oh, you make my heart to rise from the depths below. You hold me up, oh, oh, so I can see, oh, oh, you're ever lifting me, you're ever lifting me. You lifted my head so I know you're near me, you lifted my eyes so I see you clearly, where I belong, you are where I belong. I'm lifting my voice just to sing a new song, I'm lifting my hands just to show you I know where I belong, you are where I belong, and you are ever lifting me, Jesus, you are ever lifting me, oh, you fill my heart to know the length of your great love, and where you go I'll go, you set my heart above, and nothing on earth compares, oh God, when I'm with you, you take me higher, you take me higher, and you fill my heart to know the length of your great love, and where you go I go, you set my heart above, and nothing on earth compares, oh God, when I'm with you, you take me higher, you take me higher, you lifted my head so I know you're near me, you lifted my eyes so I see you clearly, where I belong, you are where I belong, you lifted my head so I know you're near me, you lifted my eyes so I see you clearly, where I belong, you are where I belong. I lifted my voice just to sing a new song, I lifted my hands just to show you I know where I belong, you are where I belong, you are ever lifting me, Jesus, you are ever lifting me, on my days, you are ever lifting me, oh, you are ever lifting me,
That's Christy Knuckles from Real Life Radio, 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine, ever lifting. We'll come back with Rodney and Laura in a moment. It's time for Uncommon Moments with Tony Dungy and his wife, Lauren Dungy, this morning, underwritten by Fairfield National Bank.
As a financial advisor, John Reynolds is well versed in the best practices of financial planning. But as a local, raised in Wayne County, he's more than experienced with the unique challenges you face every day. After growing up here, he's now returned, investing back into the community that contributed to his success, passionate and committed to helping you with yours. FNB Asset Management. We're here to help.
This is Uncommon Moments with Super Bowl winning coach Tony Dungy and his wife Lauren on their uncommon marriage adventure. Available now in paperback.
If you think about purpose, what is our purpose in being married? What is our purpose in having a wife, being totally committed, loving her for the rest of my life? We know we need to love our wives. How much do we need to love our wives? How much does Christ love us? Ephesians 5:25. For husbands, this means love your wife just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her. Think about that as a husband. If I'm supposed to love my wife the way Christ loved the church, I may not literally have to die for my wife, but that's the kind of love that I need. I need to show and I need to be there and ready to sacrifice.
The Uncommon Marriage Adventure by Tony and Lauren Dungy. Now available in softcover from Tyndale Momentum. More info at CoachDungy.com.
Good morning and welcome back to the Vine Morning Show on this Monday morning. If you're watching on our live video stream this morning on our website, WVYN.org, thanks for tuning in this morning. I'm Mark along with Laura this morning and her brother Rodney Mellott. And Rodney is here as he will be a special speaker, Laura, this Friday night at the Rock in Centralia. It's a night to honor Israel, right?
It is. It starts at 6:30, and we are hoping for a good crowd. And I still don't know for sure if Amir Safadi is going to do FaceTime, but if he can, it's going to be a great 10 minutes or so he'll probably give us. And then Rodney, of course, will get to speak, and they're just kind of unleashing him. They don't want any time constraints. They want him just to go, go, go. And then we'll have the Seder meal again with the Reagans. Yeah. And then the Rock Praise Team. So it's going to be a great night, 6:30 to 8. We're not going to keep you super late. Try to make it out to the Rock on Airport Road in Centralia. It's very easy to find, and you can contact us. Or just the way that we just go straight up the interstate, get off at Centralia, turn left, go to the first stoplight, left again.
And there
that's all you got to do.
It's easy to find.
Very, very simple to
on
find.
Airport Road. And not only, we started off this morning a good laugh with Rodney, and, it's fun that you can go and travel to these countries and be able to laugh, laughing's a good therapy for us. And I'm sure, Rodney, you've got so many other stories that we can sit and laugh at, but let's get serious here for a moment. When you reflect back to when you first went to Israel, what made you want to go many years ago?
Well, when I first started getting real serious about the Bible, wanted to know, and I just kind of, and I'm sure that, well, you know as well as I do that in the past 10 years especially, God's put it in their heart to know about Israel and know about the Jewish people, and so I guess 20 years ago that was probably what started the whole thing. But I was interested in Jewish culture, the background of the Bible, because I knew that we were interpreting Scripture through a 21st century American lens. That wasn't what was, earlier. I tell people this all the time. Let's say that a young lady wrote in her diary that my boyfriend proposed to me tonight under the Golden Arches. 2,000 years from now, you would think, oh my goodness, what a romantic destination that must have been. And today we know he was a tightwater. Not really, but it would be much different. So there's just things that we just don't understand the cultural background to that really adds a lot of flavor to the Bible. Doesn't change, what you understand of the Scripture. We're not wrong, but it adds another dimension or element to the Scripture. So I started looking for books. Well, I found one little bitty book, and you remember the Words of Life bookstore in Mount Vernon? Oh, it's Alta Culpepper, was that?
Yeah, I think that's
you remember her?
Yeah.
She was a sweet lady,
yes.
But she would try and help me, and there just wasn't much available. Well, a few years later, a buddy of mine, who's since gone on to be at the Lord, Ron Guerin, he brought me these CDs that he had run off from somewhere at their church. I don't even know. And all it said was RVL, and it had 1 through 9 written on the front of these. He said, this is what you've been looking for. Well, it turned out to be Ray Vanderlaan. So I'm telling my wife, I'm like, these things, I've been looking for this for years, So I don't know what made her do this, but she got on the internet. She just typed in Ray Vanderlaan, I guess, see if there's anything. So she comes back to me the next day and she says, do you know they have tours in Israel? This guy takes people on tours to Israel. I'm like, no. And she says, at her prompting, she said, you ought to call them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll call them. So I called them and they said, George DeYoung, which is a really good guy. You get to go on a trip with George, do it. But anyway, she said, they've got trips and there's one leaving in 10 days. And she said, you ought to go. So I called them and I said, hey, what do I got to do? They said, well, you got to have a passport. I said, well, I don't have a passport. They said, well, if you can get a passport, and said, we got to know, either yes or no, because we got to order and arrange everything. And I said, well, let me make a few phone calls. And I called the post office. They said, no, you can't get it in 10 days. That's impossible. And they said, well, maybe if you go to Chicago, which is where the flight was leaving out of, maybe you can get it there.
Right.
So I called. They had an automated system. And the only thing I could get was an appointment there for 2 days before I left. And that's all I had. And so I'm like, okay, if God led us this far, then I'll get there, So I went, and people said, you have just wasted your money. You will never get out of the country. You cannot get a passport in 2 days. Impossible. So I went to Chicago. And
you took a step of faith, didn't you?
Yeah, you sure did. So anyway, I walked in. And they took some information, this and that and the other, and they said, come back tomorrow. And the next morning I went in, they handed me a passport, and it was just that easy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was absolutely shocking. But it all started with the wanting to know the Jewish culture, the background, wanted to know the land. When you go to Israel and you're looking, the Sea of Galilee is only 13 miles long and 7.5 miles across.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. I mean, I would have pictured the Atlantic Ocean, or something at least the Great Lakes size, something like that. But you can see all the way across it, any direction you want to. And I never would have imagined that. It's a freshwater lake. It's like 450 feet deep, so it's really, it supplies the water for the country. But you just, when you're there and then you start, and I don't know what everybody else does, but when I was reading the Bible, I would just kind of watermelon all over the names that I couldn't pronounce. And like, well, why do I need to know that? Well, that's the right question with the wrong attitude. Why do I need to know that? That's the question. It's not like, why do I need to know that? And I looked at it that way. Well, when you're there, like, okay, here's a good example of something that was just, I never thought of, never knew. When you picture in your mind a land flowing with milk and honey, what do you think of? What does that mean to you? A land flowing with milk and honey.
Oh, my.
Okay, go to Psalms 23. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Now, picture in your mind green pastures. Now, tell me what you're picturing.
I'm picturing an open field with the greenest grass under the bluest sky you could ever imagine.
Okay, we got to Israel, and there's this desert with these big giant hills or mountains and rocks. And they said, this is green pasture. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know that I'm colorblind and I get that. This is not green pasture. And they said, oh yeah, this is what the Bible talks about as green pasture. Now, the Mediterranean Ocean is not too far away.
Sure.
It gets really hot in the daytime. It cools off really cool at night. And the rocks cool off, and a little bit of water condenses on that. And there's like enough moisture that behind those rocks, there's like a little bitty 3 blades of brown grass that are behind. I mean, maybe 2 inches tall. You've got to get down on your hands and knees to see that, okay? That's green pasture. Now, I always pictured like this knee-deep, lush alfalfa, this prettiest green, and this fat sheep just laying there in the middle of it, just eating away. No. In their world, the shepherd leads. In 23rd Psalms, I wish I had the time to go through the whole 23rd Psalm, because we went to a Bedouin camp where they live in a tent, and we showed up and ate supper with them. They just dropped, they didn't know we were coming, but they just dropped everything, and you become their world at that point. But the 23rd Psalm, the green pasture, the sheep follow the voice of the shepherd. They've got their heads down, and they take a bite here and a bite here, but the shepherd has to keep leading them so they don't eat too deep and kill that root. A shepherd, a lot of times, is a prepubescent girl.
Okay.
So a young girl,
Sure.
and she talks all the time. And I'm not making any references there.
Sure.
You know, but the girl, she just talk. And the sheep, they listen, and then they can't see her, but they just keep following her by her voice. And they take a bite here. Now, green pasture is God gives you what you need for right now. And that's what green pasture is about. There's not enough for you to camp out there, stop moving. There's enough for right now, and you have to keep following the shepherd, and what you need is provided along the way. Wow. And I mean, there's this fast, and so we've got pictures in our mind that when you get there, you're like, okay, the land flowing with milk and honey. Not to drop that and not finish up on it. The land flowing with milk and honey is, the honey is the farm ground, and the milk is the pasture ground. So when you see this, what looks like a desert to me, is the green pasture. That is the land that's flowing with milk. The farm ground, which would be farther in the north, is the honey because of the bees' pollination, those things. So the land flowing with milk and honey, what I had pictured in my brain is not what the scripture, you know, you come to think about what a lot of people teach, and then think about what that reference really means in the green pasture. God gives you what you need for today. And one of my rabbis said, worry is when you're trying to fill tomorrow's needs with today's pasture. So, you know, don't worry about tomorrow. God will take care of tomorrow. You worry about right now. They didn't worry about the biggest revelation that I had in Israel. We were sitting in the Judean wilderness in the evening, watching the sunset over the mountains. The bus just pulled over to the side, and we're sitting there, and this gorgeous rolling mountains that had these little lines, which they call paths of righteousness, around the outsides of it. And I'm sitting there, and it dawned on me, I'm in a foreign country, 7,000 miles from home. I don't know one person within 7,000 miles. I don't know anybody. I don't have my wallet. I don't have any money. I don't have my passport. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how to get back to the hotel. I don't have a plane ticket. I've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. I had a bottle of water. That's what I did have. And the rabbi came over to me and he said, what are you thinking? And I said, I tell you what I'm thinking. I just figured out what a shepherd was. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how to get home. I don't have any food. I don't have a bed. I have nothing, but I've got you. And I know that you're going to take care of all those things. So I'm not worried. I know that you've got a meal waiting on me. I know that you've got a bed waiting on me. I know that you're going to get me to the airport when I need to go. I know that if any problems come up, you're going to take care of them. And I figured out at that moment what a shepherd was. And I had nothing. And I wasn't worried. And that's what I told him. I said, I'm not worried about anything. And that was just, for me, the personal revelation, one of the biggest ones that I can point back to and say, that changed my life right there.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, when you think of, and see, I picture green pasture as, you know, the flowing grass under a blue sky, but the culture over there, the temperature, like what's it like, the climate over there? Like people that you have to pack warm clothing, you have to pack clothing to be, comfortable in, or
the rainy season starts in November and lasts, I believe, through March, I want to say. So that's not a good time to go. But 3 out of the 4 times I've been in October. And the weather in October there would be August, September here, but in the evenings it gets pretty cool, like out in the desert.
Sure.
But, another just really interesting things is you would see these shepherd girls walking out through just the desert, and these young girls will get like up to 15 miles away from their house. I mean, can you imagine sending Lucy, with a flock of goats or sheep out 50, okay, go out in the desert 15 miles and come back, in a couple days.
Yeah.
But you would see these girls, and they're dressed all in black from head to toe, so that if the sun was to hit them, you couldn't see their silhouette, so they're in the desert. I don't know what they take with them. It looks like nothing. But they're out there in the desert in black, and they know that if you can find enough shade, and this is scriptural, it's biblical, if you can find enough shade for your head, and you'll see these girls laying down in the desert with their head to where there's a rock or there's no trees, but maybe like a little shrub or something, and they'll put their head in that shade, and that's enough to keep them cool enough to where you can survive. It's pretty fascinating, but it gets pretty hot. Culturally speaking, men or women, either one, you want to have sleeves. You don't want to show your shoulders because that's disrespectful to them and their culture. You can wear shorts as long as they're like to your knees, nothing short. You know, you see people doing it, but it's just disrespectful.
Sure.
When you're in Jerusalem, long pants and at least 4 inches on your sleeves to be respectful of the Muslims and the Jewish people.
Sure.
Because in their culture, you just don't want to. We don't want to be offensive to them when we go.
Right.
But you want a jacket, you want some shorts, you definitely want a hat. They tell you don't go over there without a hat, and sunglasses because the sun is so bright. And then take tons of water. Like this is not big enough. They have big giant bottles, and you take a couple of them with you, and you just keep drinking because the air's dry and it just wicks the moisture out of you. We had one lady from our trip that had to go to the hospital because she got dehydrated. She was redhead, you know, so she was a little more sensitive to that than maybe others might. But you know, your packing list, you want to. There's certain things you want to take, and there's certain things you want to leave at home.
This is interesting to know. And you know, when you stop and think about Israel, and we're going to find out more when we come back with Rodney. You know, this is an exciting trip to take. It is. It really is, to see the ground that Jesus walked upon. And we're going to find out and some of the sites so that people can visit when they're there on the tour or whatever. We're going to come back with Rodney and Laura here in just a few moments on the Vine Morning Show. Stay tuned as we continue our talk about Israel, our friend. We'll come back here in just a little bit. Time for Voice of the Martyrs, underwritten by The Tin Shed and The Tin Shed, located in Wayne City. 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine is thankful for the underwriting support of The Tin Shed in Wayne City. They are your source for primitive, country, and home decor in a wide selection to meet your decorating needs. The Tin Shed is located at 701 West Robinson in Wayne City, and their phone number is 895-2155.
Hi, I'm Todd Nettleton, and this is the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. Rajai and his wife, Afsar, considered Saudi Arabia their new home. They had lived and worked there for years, and they had enjoyed gathering and worshiping with other foreign nationals, even though they knew practicing Christianity in the spiritual capital of Islam was illegal. The couple was left in relative peace until one night the police barged through the door and arrested them. Later, they released Afsar, but Rajai remained in prison. Each year, Saudi Arabia spends billions of dollars on public relations to keep their human rights violations hidden. Pray for our brothers and sisters who are hidden inside Saudi prisons because of their faith in Christ.
I will not let my brothers and sisters suffer in silence, nor will I let them serve alone. To join me in prayer for persecuted Christians, go to vomradio.net.
Thank you for making the switch to Real Life Radio.
Give me your heart, give me your song, sing it with all your might. Come to the fountain and you can be satisfied. There is a peace, there is a love, you can get lost inside. Come to the fountain and let me hear you testify. Into the wild canyons of you. Oh, there's a world to fall into. Weightless will dance like kids on the moon. Oh, I will give myself to you as soon as you start to let go. Give me your heart, give me your
That is Need to Breathe from Real Life Radio, 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine, and their song called Testify. It is time right now for Hope Out Loud with a member of the Barrick family, and it's underwritten this morning by Monroe Accounting in McLeansboro. Real Life Radio Foundation is blessed by the generosity of Monroe Accounting in McLeansboro. They specialize in a full line of accounting services for businesses, individuals, and farms, including tax preparation, payroll preparation, quarterly sales taxes, and more. Their office is located at 102 East Market Street in downtown McLeansboro with experience and knowledge to serve your needs. Their phone number is 643-3993. Monroe Accounting in McLeansboro, a proud supporter of 90.9 and 105.5 The Vine.
Today on Hope Out Loud, Josh and Linda Barrick.
As a mother, I'm constantly thinking about my kids, where they are, what they're doing, and if they're safe.
But even you can't think about us all the time.
I know. That's true. I have so many things on my mind sometimes. But I love the promise that even when I'm not looking out for you, God always is.
That's right. In Isaiah 49, God says, even if a mom forgets her child, I will never forget you.
Of course, God was speaking to Jerusalem in that verse, but the promise holds true for us. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for loving us so tenderly, like a parent loves their newborn baby.
Amen. Learn about the miracle that changed the Barrick family by visiting hopeoutloud.com.
Welcome back to the Vine Morning Show. Here we are on this beautiful Monday morning. I'm Mark, and again, welcome to those watching on our website. Our live video stream at WVYN.org. I'm Mark, along with Laura. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, Mark.
And your brother Rodney with us this morning.
Yes,
Rodney pastors WWJD Ministries in Mount Vernon. And Rodney, it's good to have you here this morning. And you're enlightening us on your trip. Yeah, this makes the 4th time you've been to Israel. Mm-hmm. And it just is more and more special every time you go back, right?
It is. It's one of them things where you're there, you think, I am never doing this again. Because it's hard. You know, the trip is hard.
Sure.
But then when you get back, like, yeah, I could probably do that again.
Yeah.
And my little girl, Kalia, you know, she's all about going now. She was a little upset I didn't take her this time. But I said, we'll get to go, and you'll get your turn in the future. And
that's good.
you know, you saw the pictures. I had put some on Facebook. But the first time I went, I climbed up to a spot called Qumran where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and we climbed up to the top of the mountain, and the guy who took us, he said, if there's anything special, he said, I was up here 10 years ago, and I prayed that God would let my daughter come back with me sometime. So he took a Sharpie out of his pack, and he wrote on a rock, and he left it on the top of that mountain. Well, he says, God answered my prayer last year, and my daughter got to come back with me. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So I wrote Cody and Casey, my boys, their names up there, and I left that rock on top of that mountain in Qumran. Well, this time, at just like out of the blue, I was going, and they said, hey, we want to go with you. And it worked out to where with their jobs they could go, and everything just worked out. And so we climbed back to the top of that mountain. And so I put Kalia and Alvy and Liam's name on a rock up there, and I set it up, took a picture of it, but left it on top of the same mountain, and hopes that someday that you know, that they'll get to come back too.
That's awesome.
So, and,
I love that.
Yeah. So and she's really wanting to go. So I'm sure there'll be another trip in my future somewhere.
Sure, sure.
Good.
Yeah, when we were at break, you wanted Rodney to talk about the menorah, right? A little bit.
Yes, the menorah that's going into the third temple. I've studied this picture, and it makes me cry. I can't help it. It makes me cry. But I've watched many videos with this menorah, and then I look on Facebook one day, and Rodney's standing next to that menorah. I'm like, this is making me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so bizarre to think this is going to be in the third temple, and he is standing right next to it. So amazing. But anyway, tell us where that was at and what you thought about it.
I don't know.
Oh, well, great.
You just
by
were
one
standing
question,
by.
and you don't know.
The Jerusalem, not the old city, but Jerusalem is split up into 4 sections, okay? And so, obviously, I didn't know where I was going because we had a guy walking rather fast through there that we was following the other times. But we were in the area of the Pool of Bethesda, okay? And St. Anne's Church from the Crusaders' time is right there by, which acoustically everybody goes there to sing because it's just incredible. You ought to hear somebody singing that place. It's just, you just can't imagine. Well, anyway, we were just walking around in that area, and we turned the corner and like, hey, there's the menorah.
Just out of nowhere.
And there it was. And so I'm like, that can't be the real deal, you know? And so I'm up there looking at it and inspecting. I'm like, there ain't no way. They've got a multi-million-dollar gold menorah sitting out here. Of course, there was multi-walled glass cabinet around it. If you'd have thumped that thing, those guys with the machine guns would have been on you pretty quick. But anyway, so Cody's like, nope, it says right here, it's the real deal.
Out of nowhere, it was just there.
And so you just walk into stuff, and there's a lot of things we missed, but that was one that I was really glad we got to see because the thing was giant too. You saw it in the picture.
Yeah, it was great.
I didn't know it was that big, but they've got all these things. The second trip that I went on, there was a rabbi there. And he brought in a guy that was, and I'm not going to pronounce this, and your listeners probably think this redneck hillbilly needs to stay home and stay out of Israel. But anyway, the Kohanim, or the priest anyway, have been selected and trained, and they have their robes in their closets waiting on a call. When they get permission, they don't have to have the temple to start sacrificing. They can go up to the steps and start sacrificing, and these guys are ready to go at a moment's notice. Really? And I met one of the guys. I mean, I heard it from the guy. He said, I've got my robes hanging in the closet. And they've been trained in the tradition of Shakita, and I'm not pronouncing that right, but the sacrificing of the lamb, you know what I mean? And they do that, and the people think about, that's cruel to animals or whatever, but these guys are trained meticulously, and they cut the throat of these animals, which is a little graphic, I understand, but they have these knives that are so sharp, and these guys are so skilled that they can do that with just a flick of the wrist, and the animal doesn't even realize that they've been cut.
Wow.
Really? It's but these guys have been trained, and I don't know if they're all trained in that particular area, but they're ready to start serving at the temple. So people don't realize just at any moment when they're given the okay, say, okay, you can do this, it'll start happening that day.
Really?
Which is pretty fascinating. The guy that I was talking to, his family was we were staying at the Olive Tree Hotel in Jerusalem at that point, which is right outside of the old city. And he told us all, we was in about the third or fourth or fifth floor at some conference room. And he said, look out of the window. And he said, you see that bus stop? He said, my family was there during a terrorist attack, and he had his kids with him. One of them was blind in the eye, and one of them, they had different scarrings and some of them different problems. But they were involved in some of those terrorist attacks even at the bus stop just down the street from where we were. But all of the, this, you've studied it much more than I have, all of the articles for the temple are ready to go.
I know.
We went up to the dome,
Oh, yes.
And I had never been there. They never took us there, and the four of us decided we were going to go. So we went in, and we were going to go in to see the rock. And, we wanted to go in and see it, why not? So we got to the door, and I said, can we go in? They said, yeah, if you convert to Islam. And I told some of them, I said, it seemed like a lot of trouble to see a rock, to have to convert to Islam. But anyway, I told the boys, I said, how far is it from here to that wall over there? And they've been sighting in their scopes on their rifles, so they kind of can... I can't tell that far distance, but they said it's about, I don't know, one of them guessed 350 yards, one of them said it's closer to 450, I don't know. And I said, well, here's what I know. I know the dimensions of the temple, and I know there's plenty of room right beside this thing to put the temple. And Revelation, it says, measure the temple, but don't measure the outside courts, because it's in the hands of the Gentiles. Now, there's plenty of room to put this thing right here. So, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I wanted to look at it. I wanted to see it for myself.
Sure.
But it was interesting, to see that. And we didn't get to go in. We walked by kind of nonchalantly when the door was open, kind of peeking in.
Get a glance in.
In Jewish tradition, though, and if I remember correctly, they think that that's where the point of creation happened, from that rock.
From the rock.
Where Abram sacrificed Isaac at this point. Where the threshing floor of Urana, am I saying that right? Where David bought the threshing floor to stop the plague. That's the spot. The Temple Mount is the spot. And there's so many things. They go through Jewish history and they say that's the spot where all these things happen. Now, that's tradition, of course. You know, I don't guess any way you could really know that. Wow. But why not? You know, is God capable of doing that? Sure. It makes sense.
Sure.
God doesn't do things haphazardly. You know, it's all from design. It's all from plan. Why is that spot the most hotly contested place on the planet?
Absolutely.
Because it has significance, and not just historical, but spiritual significance.
Sure.
This is the place that I will put my name. And you think about it. Okay, all of the writing, if you're facing north, okay, when you write from right to left, which faces Jerusalem. You get to the other side of Jerusalem, people write from left to right, back to Jerusalem. Everything points to that spot. There's a lot of things like that. Everything. So, in the Bible, Israel is the center of the world, and Jerusalem is the center of Israel. And the temple is the center of Jerusalem. The holy place is the center of that. The Ark of the Covenant is the center of that. And in the center of the mercy seat, which was set on top of the ark, was what? You remember? The angels with their wings touching. And what rested between that? The Shekinah glory, right? God's presence in the center. It would make sense. Right there in the center of the universe, the center of the world, that's where God's presence rested. So that spot is one of them that's is really cool, but it's a little eerie because of the conflict, and you got to go through like security checks to get to that, to get to that spot. And it says there's a sign hanging there that said observant Jews are not allowed or not permitted beyond this point when you're going through the checkpoints to get there. And for some reason there's Jewish people sitting there, which you can tell the Hasidic and the Orthodox, and they dress different, and they're sitting there on a bench at that spot. Now, I don't know if they're praying, like there's somebody there praying all the time that God will allow them to build their temple, or I don't know what but there's somebody sitting at that spot that said observant Jews are not permitted beyond this point. But they're there, and they just kind of, excuse me, and they go through the crowd and get to that spot and like change out with some other guys, and then let's leave them. So I don't know what that's about, and we didn't really have time or anybody to ask.
Sure. When you go on one of these trips, Rodney, what's the recommended? I know it's like when you go on a vacation, you're not going to see everything.
No, that's true.
But what's the what you've been 4 times, what do you recommend the length of trip you need to take to be able to really experience and get the feel what the Bible is talking about?
It depends on your stamina, really.
Sure, yeah.
Because it's hard. Every trip that we've taken, the second trip I didn't get to stay very long. The third trip, I had to come back a couple days early because of a family emergency. We had a friend of mine passed away while I was gone. But they go for 14 days, which a lot of people can't get 14 days off work or your family. You just can't do that. We went for 10 days, and I think I could whittle that down to 7 days and get everything that and they would be worn out by the end of it, because you're hiking, maybe 10 or 15 miles a day to see. But if you go to the north, there's a place called Banyas. Have you ever heard of Banyas?
No, no.
It started out being Panias, but the Arab in the ancient world couldn't pronounce peace very well, and they would pronounce it Banyas instead of Panias.
Okay.
Well, Pan was a temple to the god Pan. It was a worship site. You and I would recognize it in the scripture as Caesarea Philippi or the gates of Hades.
Okay.
And I have been to the gates of Hades 3 times now. And there's a fascinating story, and sometime if you got time, I'd love to come and tell you about it, but it'll take a while to unfold that. But going to that is way up north, and the guy, it's a national park, we asked him, and if you're looking straight north from Banyas, if you're looking off to your left and right, you're seeing Lebanon and Syria about 4 or 5 miles away. I mean, that's how close up in the north. And so we asked him, said, have you had any excitement here lately? And he says, no, they're too busy fighting each other right now. They're leaving us alone. But you're close enough to get a mortar lobbed in over there.
Well, you know, you hear that on the news all the time, just how close they border each other there.
They are. It's right there. And then we didn't go any further south than Arad, which I wanted to go down to the Timna Valley, which is way down in the southern part, but it's desert. It would have been like 5 hours driving. But they have a tabernacle set up in the wilderness where the Hebrew people would have come out of Egypt. And there's some college students built a replica tabernacle with the holy place, the most holy place. It's got a little ark, replica ark, and they've got mannequins in there dressed up like the priests and different things. I wanted to take those guys there, but for 5 hours of driving time, and we coincidentally, which I say that tongue-in-cheek because I don't believe in coincidence, the Jewish people say if you believe in coincidence, you don't believe in the same God we do.
Sure.
Because God lays it. We showed up on Sukkot. I don't even know if I told you that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
We showed up on Sukkot.
That's
so here we
crazy.
are starving to death. We don't know where to eat. There's nothing to eat. And so we were wanting to take a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. So we just, let's just go down to and see where they do this at. And then tomorrow we'll know where to go. We walked down there. There was food booths set up as far as your eye could see, and people. Because I asked the guy, I said, "Why is everybody outside? It's midnight. Why is everybody outside?" Well, Sukkots, they were having this big festival. It's a 7-day feast and festival. They're outside because it's about the time in the wilderness.
Okay.
And they set up little tents in their backyard. They stay outside. They spend a lot of time outside in commemoration of. And I didn't know this, but they told us it is the anniversary when they started to build the tabernacle.
Oh, wow.
And there's a tabernacle set up out there in the Timna Valley, which was there's a copper mine out there that they say that the slaves would have been, the Egyptians brought the Hebrew slaves up there to mine that copper. So I've got some slag from that is possibly mined out by the Jewish people when they were slaves in Egypt. Now, I don't know that. That's just what one of the rabbis taught,
awesome.
but it's possible.
Yeah.
So the Timna Valley is the farthest in the south, and Banyas is the farthest in the north. It's probably 300 miles, maybe. I don't know how far it is, but not very far from, that's here to Chicago. That's not a big, not a big trip. But that's what you've got to work in, and then everything is between those 2 points that you'd want to see. So you could do it easy in 7 days and see the highlights.
Yeah. We were talking off the air, and I want you to share this with the listeners. Mikville. Tell us a little bit about that. This is very interesting. Listen to this.
Mikvah. Yes, is the ritual washing. So, do you know what Hellenism is, or humanism, secular humanism, Hellenism? Hellenism, Alexander the Great, okay? He went out to conquer the world. But a little bit more than that, he went to change the world, is what my teachers taught me. Okay? He said, let's get these people to forget their God-centered little societies, and let's make the human being the center. Okay, so everything revolves around you. So he would go into these places that he conquered, and he would set up a temple, an arena, a theater, and a gymnasium. So he had the arena was for sports, and then he had the media and the theater. He had the religion, and he had, what am I missing? But anyway, the fourth one. Anyway, so he would set these things up. Well, in the Jewish villages, what you notice is the synagogue is the center of the village, and everything revolves around God. God is the center of our world. Well, Alexander the Great wanted them to give up that, that, and make, if we can make the human being, and if we can give them these things, then we can control them. You've got the sports, you've got the media, you've got the entertainment, you've got the religion. What does our culture look like? I mean, that's the 4 things that dominates our culture. So anyway, when you go into a little, like Chorazin, for instance, okay? You go into Chorazin, there's the ruins of these insula, which goes, I kind of lose my mind because there's too much to convey in a short period of time, but where Okay, in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go prepare a place for you, I'll come again, take you to be with me where I am. Okay, loosely paraphrased, sorry. Anyway, the Father's house is here, and when the son was ready to be married, he would add on a room. And the son didn't know when the marriage date was. The father would watch the construction and say, when you get to a certain point, okay, now it's time, go get your bride. In this community was a synagogue. After you did a lot of things, and before you went to synagogue, before you went to pilgrimage to Jerusalem, you went to mikveh, which was ritual washing. And if you according to the law of Moses, at different times you needed to wash, be cleansed. If you were going to present sacrifices, if you were going to synagogue, I don't know, there were all kinds of reasons. But basically, it was a hole in the ground, carved out of rock, had stairs carved into the rocks, and it had to be Mein Kaim, which is water that's moved by the finger of God. You couldn't just fill it up. It had to be gravity fed into that basin or whatever you want to call it. So you go down into there, and all you do is, the water wasn't pretty a lot of times. It was, you find these things all over Israel. But you just walk down in there, and you just immerse yourself in this water, and then you come out, and you're ritually clean. Wow. But and there's a lot of interesting teaching about mikveh and why and how, and then you get into John's baptism, which was a completely different thing. But anyway, there's a lot of teaching. But most people have never heard of mikveh or living water, Mein Kaim, or know that practice at all. But it's another, it was deep in the Jewish Bible.
Wow. We're going to come back on that. Gosh, we got to wrap it up here, guys. But we're going to come back, talk a little bit about a night to honor Israel.
Okay, good,
and we're going to do that when we come back here in just a few moments and wrap it up with Laura and Rodney this morning here on The Vine. Coming back in just a few moments.
Is grateful for the underwriting support of Taylor Flooring in Mount Vernon. Located at 328 Main Street in Mount Vernon, Taylor Flooring specializes in the sales, service, and installation of top brands such as Mohawk, Southwind, and LW Mountain. 100% locally owned and operated by Mark and Sherry Taylor, Taylor Flooring in Mount Vernon has your flooring needs covered. Their phone number is 315-6004. He who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. This is Keeping Watch with Lora Greathouse.
Salvation is in Jesus Christ, and He is the only way to escape eternity in hell. If anyone tells you there are different paths or religions or gods that will lead to heaven, they are nothing shy of a liar. Deceptions are running wild. Right now, this is the day in which, if it were possible, even the elect could be deceived. We are daily living in those times. It's just another sure sign the end of the church age is at hand. Many people putting off being saved and turning their lives to God are treading on thin ice. The events of this world are snapping together hand in hand with the words in the Bible. In Thessalonians it says the day of the Lord will not sneak up on the Christians, but it will come like a thief in the night for all of the others. How will it surprise them? Because they're not ready, and they don't know the words of God in the Bible. Many claim they have no time to read their Bible. Many say they have no understanding when they do read the Bible. But what seems to be the biggest truth is this: very few truly desire to read the Bible. Things are coming upon this world, and the only way you are going to know the truth is to read about it first. It's not going to happen on accident. And that's why it says in the scriptures that if it were possible, even the elect could be deceived. You've got to know the word to know when the counterfeit is staring you straight in the eyes.
This has been Keeping Watch with Lora Greathouse, heard twice daily on 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine.
Thank you, Laura. As we get ready to wrap things up, we could continue this conversation probably through the noon hour, guys. And Rodney, you're going to have to come back and talk more about this. But one thing I want to point out, and I mentioned this off the air to you, you've been 4 times to Israel. Yes. And, I've always heard this before, that once you go, you come back a changed individual. How true is that for you?
It is. I tell people that similar thing very often. I mean, once you go from the abstract and you've got these pictures in your mind to where when I read in the Bible and I'm looking in Peter, who do you say that I am? Well, you're the Christ, okay? And that happened at Caesarea Philippi. I can put myself in that spot and it becomes very real, and you understand there's some interesting things that you just can't get without that picture. Now, today we can do a lot of that with the internet. I mean, you can Google Banyas and find it and get a pretty good picture. But St. Jerome said there's 5 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the land of Israel. And everybody that I've studied with says you learn with your feet. And when you've walked 10 miles out in the desert and you learn, like Boaz brought us ice cold grapes out in the middle of the Timnah Valley out in the desert, and it's hot and it's miserable. And the Bible says, speaking of Israel, when I found you, it was like finding grapes in the wilderness. Well, when I read that scripture, I remember that spot where Boaz came out with these ice cold grapes out in the middle of this hot desert. And it changes your perspective. Sure. And you can look at the Bible and it just paints a lot better picture for you. Not that anybody's wrong or anybody's missing anything, but if you love God's Word, you love the Bible, and you want to know it in a deeper way, that's the way to do it, right there. Classes are good, Bible study's great, helpful books from the Christian bookstore, all those are good things. But it's like a crash course, Bible 101 to go.
Wow, to go. So if you can go, and, Rodney, anybody wants any information, they can get a hold of you on Israel, right? And you'll be glad to direct them to wherever, right?
And I can tell them how to do it real cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you're going to be speaking Friday night at 6:30 at the Rock Church in Centralia, a night to honor Israel. What can people expect? Are you going to tell basically what you discussed on the air? You just got so many stories that it's hard to go with what you know and experience.
Laura's pastor, he came to the last night to honor Israel, and I was the guest speaker at the Baptist Temple there. Tim Reynolds invited me. And so I talked about, some prophecies and some things that are fulfilled and just, a lot about Israel, not specifically about trips. And he told me, he said, I want that exact service at our church.
Wow.
So anyway, I'll try and change it up a little bit because some of those people were there.
Sure.
But what God said about Israel in the Bible in the past, and what's going on right now, and what we can expect in the future, those types of things. And of course, there's always some kind of, my general nonsense about just some of the ridiculous things that went on while we were there. But,
it's exciting because to know that you walked in areas where Jesus walked, and knowing that this is an experience you're going to take on with you when you go to heaven.
Oh,
isn't it exciting?
There are some spots that beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus and his disciples was on this exact spot, like that path that between Chorazin and Capernaum, 4 miles we hiked that path. And that's been, there are people who walk these. There's the Via Maris, the Way of the Sea, the Valley of the Doves. That's the traveling routes. They didn't have highways, and there were paths of least resistance that people would have followed because there's so many mountains. And that's where people went. And it's fascinating. Armageddon, fascinating, where it's at, why it was there, the Valley of Megiddo. 25 different cities on that site have been destroyed and another one built right on top of it. Why? What's specific? And there's a lot of good story and history behind those spots.
What a history lesson this morning. I mean, there's things that you talked about that I had a little knowledge, but didn't really know until you explained it a little more.
Right.
But it's going to be a fun night, Friday night, right, Laura?
Now, you're bringing any of your pictures?
Yeah.
I've got some new stuff, as a matter of fact.
Okay, good.
I was at a place, and I know you don't have much time, but a guy that was an archaeologist at Masada. Okay, you remember the movie Masada?
Yeah.
I didn't get to see it, but on that site, he was one of the archaeologists, and I bought some 2,000-year-old coins. One of them is the only coin that was accepted in the temple in Jesus' day, and I got one of those shekels, the 30 pieces of silver.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've got one of, not the coins, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
You don't
Wow.
know.
But anyway, and then I've got a widow's mite, a Pontius Pilate coin, and a Herod coin from 30 AD.
Wow.
And those coins, they cost me a lot of money. But
sure.
but the guy gave me such a good deal because he kept asking me. He called me a priest, which I'm obviously not a priest. But to him I was. He's a Muslim fellow. And he was in the National Geographic magazine. He showed me his articles in there. Well, anyway, he said, "You're going to use this for education purposes?" And I said, "Yeah, that's why I'm buying it." And he cut the price down to just ridiculous. Like one coin was $500, and he knocked it down to the camp kids at the end of the week when I'm an evangelist out there. They take up a little offering for me. And I used to not take it, but then I thought, they're giving me that. I ought to use it for something.
Yeah.
Well, there was $89 there.
Wow.
And it's just ones, 89 ones. And I'd carried this around with me for 6 months, and I bought that coin with that. He took whatever I had in my hand for that.
That's great.
He said, "You're going to teach these kids with these?" I said, "That's what I'm going to do." And he knocked them down to just ridiculous. He started at $1,000 for those coins.
Wow.
I think I ended up for $300 getting them.
Wow.
Good.
But I've got those. I've got some of those little bitty lamps like they would have carried, little oil lamps.
Yeah.
I have some of those. And obviously some pictures. I've got rocks from all over the place. David and Goliath rocks from the Elah Valley, the stream where David got his rocks. The shofar, of course, I'll bring that.
Yes,
And
good.
I don't remember what I brought the last time, but anyway, the shofar, people just always love when you pull that shofar out
It's
and blow that
wonderful.
thing. People, I don't know, it makes people cry.
It
when
makes
they,
me cry every time.
And,
Yeah, it's touching.
That
Yeah,
sound.
the
is
sound,
just,
the sound,
It's
yeah.
it's a
Something
desert.
about it,
It's a
yeah.
desert
Yes.
sound, and it's been
Yes.
used for thousands of years. So I'll have that with me, and news stories. Yeah,
Sure.
So
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
great.
Friday night at what time?
Friday
Laura?
night, 6:30. Be there. You'll miss it if you don't, and if you can announce it at your midweek service at your churches, that'd just be great. Be your last
And
chance.
then just throw this in before we get off. Any little churches that's interested,
Yeah.
I'm always glad to go. I don't charge them anything. I don't
Yeah.
expect anything. But if God gives you something like this, you got to share it.
Yeah.
Sure.
He didn't just
Sure.
send you over there just for you. So
Yeah.
if any little churches, I'd be glad to come.
That'd be good.
It's going to be an exciting night. I can't wait to hear more. I want you to come back some morning, which you can,
I'd be
Rodney.
glad
I'd love for you to come back and maybe you can send me maybe a JPEG file, and for our audience
right.
we can
Yes.
we can put
Well,
it up
someone
on the
will do it
screen.
for him.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Is it a round JPEG
Yeah.
and a square hole? I don't know what you're talking
a photo. There you go. There
I
you go.
can do that.
So I can load it on and show it on our online
Yeah,
listeners and
that's
stuff.
great.
I'd like for you to come back sometime.
great.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. And thanks for coming today.
Yes,
My
that's
pleasure.
good.
And come and listen to Rodney Friday night at the Rock in
Yes.
Centralia. It all begins at 6:30.
6:30.
6:30,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
and 6:30 to about 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
or so.
about 8.
Sunday night, I'll be back at the Baptist Temple again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Well, this coming Sunday?
Yeah,
all
they're
right.
they're wanting to know about the trip, so it'll be.
Yeah, what time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay,
6 o'clock. I'm going
probably
to say. I
6.
don't know.
Okay. We
You
can
can give Pastor Tim a call. He'll be glad to
That's
to
right.
tell you, right?
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
right.
And don't forget the big moon tonight. If you
Yeah.
get to step outside,
Yeah.
isn't it tonight?
It
The
was
big-
last night. It
Oh,
was
what?
last night. Yeah,
That was
you,
last
yeah,
night?
you missed it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you missed it.
I saw it
yeah.
on the news this morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It was so awesome, and
Yeah.
you missed
And
it.
I
You
missed it. It
missed
said
it.
the 14th on my
Yeah, you missed
whatever
it.
I looked
Yeah.
at.
Yeah,
So,
today was the
okay.
14th, so see.
Well, great.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hate
so
it when
that-
that
It's
happens.
AM 14th.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, some of
Yeah.
those blood
The
moons, you've
14th,
missed them
yeah.
before. It's like, wait
Yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
Okay, well, forget that, people. You missed it. So did I. Okay.
Hey, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, but it was beautiful. It was
Yeah.
bright and
Okay,
beautiful. So,
good.
yeah. Again, thanks for coming in. All right, Rodney, come back anytime. It's great to see you again.
All right,
And great
thank
to meet
you.
you. Thank you. All right. Hey, Jenny Lee is next with the Overflow. She's going to have that. And then Jimmy, the afternoon matinee. And don't forget, Pastor Steve, his sermon tonight at 8 o'clock. Is that right, Laura? Yeah,
Yes,
8 o'clock
sir.
tonight right
Good
here
stuff.
on the Vine. And then before that, Brian with Soul Shine on a Monday. Have a great week. Have a great day, everyone. A great week. And we'll talk to you tomorrow after Focus on the Family. Remember to read Scripture daily. Stay focused on God and His Word, all right? Jenny Lee coming up next with The Overflow right here.
This is your home for best Christian music.
WVYN, Bluford, Wayne City, Fairfield, Mount Vernon.
And now on Translator, W288CO Centralia, broadcasting at 105.5.
A service of Real Life Radio Foundation.
The best Christian music.